Okay, folks, you're all very welcome to our brand new podcast series. It's kind of video mixed with podcast. So we've come up with a very clever name called a vodcast. I'm going to copyright that, I think. But it's all part of our Clubs and Societies Week, which is taking place this week, all week long. We're looking back at the past 30, 40 years of IT Carlow's Clubs and Societies, right up until the present day. And I suppose this particular podcast, so we've done Wexford campus ones, we've done women in sport ones, and we've done a podcast based on students who have left us now and have used their clubs and societies to get where they are now. But this particular podcast is to look back at how clubs and societies, I suppose, started and where it is now. And I'm delighted to be joined on the call by four fantastic people who have helped clubs and societies to develop over the years. We have Father Martin Smith, chaplain at IT Carlow. We have Paula Hickey from the sports office. We have Donal McNally, the current director of sport. And we have Carmel Lynch, the previous, before Donal, director of sport. Folks, you're all very welcome. I hope you're all doing well. Yes?
Thanks, Michael. Yeah,
Thanks,
great
Michael.
to be on the call.
Yep.
A very unusual time that we find ourselves in. I'd like to start, if possible, with Donal. We're now probably a year into the pandemic. Take us back briefly to that March. Was it the March 12th or 11th when Leo came out and said, "Okay, folks, we're going into lockdown." How was that for you and your team and all those involved in clubs and societies?
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, D-Day, isn't it? I actually, at times, I think I'm wondering, did it happen yesterday or did it happen 100 years ago? Because days roll into one another. And again, just to get a sense of how long ago that was, it's hard to believe that we're actually facing into our second year, which would normally be a time for clubs and societies awards and everything that has gone on, obviously, with the pandemic. So, yeah, look, I suppose last year, 12th of March, we were after a reasonably successful sporting year in terms of what had gone before. And I suppose, we had chats over coffee at different times and we were talking about what was going on in China and different places in the world. And a couple of weeks later, then we were in the middle of it ourselves. So look, obviously it was, we could see it coming down the tracks a little bit, but in terms of it actually, the impact that it's had, it's probably look, it's been difficult, obviously, naturally, for everyone. From a clubs and societies perspective, as I said, going back to it, we had a number of the competitions had kind of come to the concluding stages, and those that kind of hadn't finished, obviously, were at close to being finished. So we felt at the time that given the year that we've had, it was important to have some type of acknowledgement for our clubs and societies, and we went online with kind of remote award ceremony. And to be honest with you, it was really good. I suppose the students that were part of clubs and societies got the opportunity kind of to be celebrated for the efforts that they had put in. It was a different way for us to do it. I think the planning that was kind of that led up to the actual awards, it took time. It wasn't something that we were used to, but look, like everyone else, we've adapted our ways, and it's as I said, 12 months on, and we're facing into our next celebration of clubs and societies, and delighted to be part of it, and thanks for facilitating the call.
Thank you. And Paula, when I suppose everyone returned back in September, I know there was probably a bit of nervousness on whether or not clubs and societies was going to go ahead, but it did in its new format, I suppose, with an on-site clubs and societies week through freshers. How did the clubs and societies adapt? Was there stuff online? Did you get any in person, I suppose, time?
Of course, I suppose in order to get people to sign up to the clubs and societies with the help of yourself and the Students' Union, we had a totally different sign-up process this year, online, and then a big open space, socially distanced tent. So that was the start of it. Then trying to produce what we were offering and getting everyone up and going was a bit difficult. a lot of our clubs, I suppose, didn't get totally going the way they normally would, but we did have some stuff online, of course, trying to keep people going. Pilates, yoga, even the GA clubs, they had their own strength and conditioning sessions and stuff like that. So at the start of the year, some of the GA were able to get out in their pods of 15, but then obviously it changed again when the levels deteriorated. So yeah, it's been totally different, very difficult, and it's just not the same. So we're really looking forward to hopefully this September being something different. Fingers crossed.
And I suppose, Martin, from a mental health point of view, it was important that students kept in touch with each other, and numerous clubs and societies moved online and started to form kind of new WhatsApp groups or chats or whatever, just to keep in touch with each other. Did you find that there was many issues regarding that, or how did it?
The whole value of being member of a club and society is that you're meeting other people. You're meeting other people that have the similar interests with you, and you're building up relationships, and you're expanding your own experience. So that was all very limited this year. And I think one of the things students who've come through it and who've found different ways to meet and different ways to associate with each other, they've built up a sense of resilience. Some of the societies, I would be responsible for societies, some of the societies really almost worked better this year. For instance, we had a new society started, the Esports Society. Now, obviously, that's based on online, but they were involved in intervarsities this year. You know, the tabletop gaming also, they started gaming online. There was a few, like the African Caribbean, they weren't online. So I suppose, obviously, it's only a kind of a small piece of what they could be, what we would have been doing if
but it was better than nothing.
Absolutely. And better than nothing, but in some ways it was a lot better.
Yeah.
A lot better than, sometimes clubs and certainly societies can, they kind of come and go in waves and they wane. The strong societies really, really got stronger this year, which was cool.
Yeah. Well, look, let's put COVID aside for the minute. I think we're all fed up of hearing that word.
Good idea.
And I want to go to Carmel, and now we're going right back to the beginning, right? Now, you started off lecturing here at IT Carlow. We won't go into any years or anything like that, I promise you. But I'm curious, how did clubs and societies develop at IT Carlow? Obviously, a different name back then, the Regional Technical College.
Yeah, RTC, Michael. Yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day.
So, how did it develop from? Was it an idea from yourself? Was it a group of individuals? How did it develop?
Well, look, as you said, I mean, it was back in the day, and it was the 80s, I suppose. I'll put the date on it.
We won't say the year.
And I don't know how we would have managed, even though I know you said put COVID aside, but during this recent past, because obviously the technology wasn't there, and so thankfully we didn't have that obstacle to kind of surmount. But yeah, it is a lifetime ago now, and obviously we didn't have the facilities, the amazing facilities that are all around us now, and really there was only a semblance of a structure there. So to be fair, when I came, there was a structure there. I didn't initiate the structure at all. I just followed on what was already there, and that was, again, that structure is to be complemented, and that was driven mainly by the Students' Union, the chaplaincy, numerous chaplaincies at the time, and the huge number of student volunteers and staff volunteers, and whatever personnel were working in the sports area at the time as well. So a big driver, I suppose, for the clubs and societies, in particular the societies at the time, was what we called the MAD Festival, and I think that's still familiar to a lot of students: music, art and drama. And it was really, that was a festival of art, if you like, and a festival for students to go and meet each other, have a good time. My memory is that I think it was mostly held in Athlone. Now, it may have moved around the country as well, but the whole year for societies was really spent preparing for that one major event. And I do recall before one of the major events in Athlone, it was, where the students and staff of the college were greeted to numerous performances in drama and music in the old gym, which is now the physiology lab, hundreds, not standing room only, and to give them practice before they actually moved on to the All Ireland series. So like that was one aspect, and that was a major driver, I have to say, of the societies within the college. Now, there were other societies outside of the MAD as well that were developing slowly. But again, I think it was the spirit that the students brought to, as I say, not huge structures, not huge facilities, but the students, gave that spirit, and that was really taken on board by the college authorities as well, who were very proud of the students. If in a sports club they won a competition, there was always a medal ceremony or a presentation of some sort, and obviously if they were successful with the society as well. So,
and I'm curious, you mentioned there about the facilities, and we'll come to the new facilities that are available now later on. But how did clubs find, starting off with was there a severe lack of facilities, or was it just it needed time to grow to where it is now? Was there a pitch? Did you have to go down to a local maybe GA pitch to do stuff, or how did it work?
Yeah, again, the pitches as such were developed before I came. A couple were added on, obviously, in latter years, but there was always a GA pitch where it is now, more or less. We had 2 soccer pitches. One was outside the engineering block now, where that is, where the rugby stand is, really, just a different, placed in a different way, and a further soccer pitch right up where the new soccer pitch is now, and a rugby pitch where the car park is now, in fact, where I'm parked out there today. So that was the rugby pitch. There was about 6 inches between the edge of the pitch and the car park. So I would say health and safety mightn't pass that now, and there's always a fear that some poor guy or girl would end up out in the tarmac. And in terms of the soccer pitch, up at the top where the current all-weather soccer pitch is now, the students were well versed in that if they won the toss, they'd always play uphill for the first half, because to conserve their energy, then they had a downhill run. So it was a little bit uneven, if you like, putting it mildly. So, facilities don't compare at all, by a long shot as to what they are now. But for all that, we still managed to put out teams in national competition sports-wise. And the floodlights, this is interesting. The floodlights were the spillover from the lights outside the engineering department. So, so basically, IT Carlow has come a long way. But again, I think, it showed the dedication of a number of students and staff, students' union, chaplaincy, and the management of the college, to grow that whole area of structure, and then obviously facilities as well. And we've seen it grow year on year to the present day.
Yeah, and Donal, I suppose the facilities keep on getting better and better. You took over in 2014, and since then, quite a lot of time, effort, and money have gone into fantastic facilities for the players and societies and everything.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, Michael, and I suppose it's a credit to the senior management and I suppose all the staff and students and people that have gone before, that the facilities have developed to what they are. And when I talk about what they are, they're world-class facilities. We're after developing a new 15 million South Sports campus that would rival any campus on the island of Ireland and across the UK into Europe and across the world. So it really is phenomenal. Funny, when Carmel's talking there, it brings me back to a time in 2002 or 2003. I was, I suppose, I came to play against IT Carlow during my time in college, and I remember just on the Green Road side, actually, I think the bus parked there. We may have got changed on the bus, and that probably because we were late coming out of Dublin. But we came across the hill on the green road side and onto the pitch. And Carmel talked about, I suppose, alluding to kind of the warmth around clubs and societies and the number of people. I remember just we were facing an army when we came down to play Carlow at that stage, and I think we were sent packing as well. So we got a real sense of that kind of cohesive unit that was clubs and societies at the time. But I suppose bringing it back to more recent times, we talk about the facilities, and I talked about the South Sports Campus, but there's been an evolution of facilities on the campus. I came here in 2010, and every year I think there's been a new building, whether it's a sports related building or an engineering block or a library or a research area or whatever it may be. So again, I couldn't compliment the people with the vision at the top enough, because it's really, as I said, it's world class.
Yeah, and I suppose you alluded to there the whole idea of teamwork and working with other colleges, and I suppose, Paula, intervarsities is a huge part of clubs and societies. Now, obviously, probably in the year that was COVID, it was not possible. But before that, regularly there would be buses leaving this institute going to somewhere in Ireland.
Of course, Michael. We have obviously numerous teams in many of the bigger sports, like the soccer, rugby, Gaelic would have anywhere between 3 and 6 teams. Obviously, all the other smaller sports would have a team. So on a normal, healthy week, particularly on a Wednesday, you could have 8 or 10 buses going out here if you happen to have a week where everybody is going away that week. And that leads to a lot of trouble getting the right size bus for everyone, and the Gaelic guys looking for the good buses and so on. So yeah, on a normal week, intervarsities are so popular, whether it be the smaller sports, table tennis, volleyball, right to the soccer, rugby, Gaelic, basketball, so on. So every team would have inter-college competitions going on at all levels, from Division 4 right up to the top levels.
And some fantastic wins and participation merits as well.
We've had a couple of good years. I think particularly since with the introduction of the new courses in Carlow, I think going back to about 2008 maybe, when the rugby course started, then we really started to cream in on the rugby. We would have only had one rugby team maybe along with freshers, and then we went from that to having Division 1, 2 and 3. And obviously the women's team as well. Same with the soccer. We've had some excellent talent coming in over the years. In Carmel's day, I think we might have had 2 soccer teams at the best and a girls' team. Now we're talking about 5 teams. So yeah, the talent from those courses has really helped our team sports in a big way in all intervarsities.
And I suppose, Donal, those courses have helped to bring students from all over the country to IT Carlow, because they mightn't necessarily be available anywhere else. And there's some fantastic partnerships with GAA, Leinster Rugby and everything as well.
Yeah, no, and again, look, the courses through the national governing bodies, soccer, rugby, GAA obviously came around kind of 2008 through to 2010, 11. I think that was the time I joined. But like IT Carlow has been at the forefront. Even before that, the sports rehabilitation that kind of Carmel would have come and been involved with, like the reputation from them courses, they're all well recognised across Ireland. But certainly in terms of the facilities, we talked earlier about the growth of the facilities, but in terms of the growth of the academic programs, that has supported everything also. So the number of students that are interested, they're obviously studying in Carlow, then there was the outlet for them outside of the classroom to get involved in clubs and societies. And I know Paula talked about going from 1 team to kind of 4 and 5 teams. We talked earlier about that kind of, the vibrancy and the ethos of people that were in IT Carlow just wanting to become involved in clubs and societies. And that's something that's evolved and developed from Carmel's time. And I suppose when I came into the role, I was trying to follow on from that, and certainly the success through 2014, 15, 16, that's all because of the foundations that had been put in place for all of the years previous. But yeah, like the links to the national governing bodies, like you have expertise in soccer, rugby, GAA that are able to come in and kind of give the whole thing a lift. So I suppose a lot of the time the success can be attributed to the people involved, and we've been certainly fortunate with the people that we've had involved over the last number of years, and the staff that are involved and student involvement that we have now. That's been a big part. And obviously, as I said, we talked about the college growing alongside the academic programs and the facilities. So it all kind of led towards certainly a kind of an increase in numbers, an increase in success, and that positive feeling that we all associate with being involved in clubs and societies in IT Carlow.
Yeah. And Martin, have you found yourself, say, when you started as being looking after the societies, that they've developed throughout the years, and newer ones that maybe you wouldn't expect have come on stream?
Yeah, well, I suppose societies very much depend, obviously, on the students, and all societies are student-led. So obviously, some years, for instance, the Music and Band Society, very strong society, most years, but then 2 years they didn't exist. Some new societies have come up, like the Esports Society, brilliant society. One year we had a very strong early childhood society. There are societies that are there all the time. The LGBTQ plus is a very important society, and it's there all the time. And the law society, societies that support students in their various academic pursuits.
And do you find
they're
that
kind
it
of
would be
fundamental to the college?
Do you find, sorry to cut across, do you find it is it depends on the year and the people in the college at the time, the leaders? Because I know, for example, when we did our Wexford podcast and we had Iris Whelan from the Wexford campus, who still to this day leads a fantastic drama society, but, probably before Iris would have come out, there mightn't have been that drama society.
That's exactly the point. Now we try, obviously in the office or in the clubs and societies, we try and encourage, always we're trying to encourage new societies and new ways of thinking about stuff. So the support is there, but if you don't have somebody to run with the ball, it just falls flat. And it's sometimes it is, you can go from a year when, say, society's really strong and they're doing lots of stuff, and then the next year there's nobody to take it up, and that's very frustrating sometimes. If there's no continuation, we try now more and more to have, we'll say, elections before the end of the year, so that there is a continuity. But sometimes it's difficult. Yeah. But what's wonderful is the creativity and the energy, as you say, the energy of students bringing new ideas, and they're full of passion and creativity, and that's wonderful to see. That is wonderful, and we will try and do everything in our power to support them.
And I suppose the reason we are here today is to celebrate clubs and societies and to acknowledge them. And I suppose, Carmel, the awards were the one, I suppose, idea or concept that would allow for the Institute to recognise its students for their contribution, because all of it is voluntary at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that has been a hugely important initiative, and it was one that we were very keen to kind of get over the line, in probably the early 90s, if my memory serves me right. I suppose previous to that, the college was very, modern in their approach in terms of setting up the Student Services Department as an entity. That was very innovative. That was the word I was trying to find a minute ago. Very innovative at the time, because in Ireland, DCU were the only other college that had a dedicated student services unit. And we learned a lot, from DCU, and they helped us set it up, etc., etc. But I suppose it was the start of having a one-stop shop, if you like, for student needs, student services, alongside the medical and obviously other supports. The activities committee was set up, and that was a combination of the Students' Union, chaplaincy, and sport. And that allowed students, and students, obviously, members were key part of that. That allowed them to have a voice and to develop an opportunity to develop their societies by maybe getting advice on how to run a proper society, or a successful society, I should say, and also to access funding, etc., etc. So that was it. That was a very important initiative, I think, from the college as a whole, but it certainly benefited the development of the clubs and societies. Now, whereas each unit within that had its own autonomy, but yet the collective and teamwork there was very apparent. So out of that really grew then the recognition, the necessity to recognise the clubs and societies volunteer effort that was being made by a huge number of students. And that's where our awards ball came from. So that was a much coveted award by the students who actually received them. There was a lot of what would I say, to-ing and fro-ing in relation to putting people's names forward and whom the student, generally it was student elected. There were some staff awards as well. Staff would have selected, if you like, but the students were very proud of being recognised, both individually and having their clubs recognised as well. And we had a number of high-profile media guest speakers at the time. So Michael, watch out. You're probably coming next now for the next one.
A huge expense. You wouldn't be able to afford me. And I suppose, Donal, the Clubs and Society Awards have grown year on year to nearly become, it's nearly like an Oscars night. Everyone gets their glad rags on. Sometimes it used to be on campus, and then it went off campus as well. It's a huge event.
Yeah, it is. Look, and it's I suppose it's important that we kind of mark this time as well, and because although COVID has happened, that we don't forget it within the calendars, and that's been important for us because as Carmel has alluded to, it's been a kind of mainstay from the early 90s onwards, and it's that moment in time that people look forward to. And I think people even that aren't involved in clubs and societies always are scrambling for the tickets at the end. We obviously have to prioritise the students for the awards, but it started out with special guests. The venue, and you mentioned that we had some of our awards on campus. Again, the college have shown that ability to adapt, and where we saw an opportunity that we'd have a purpose-built marquee for the awards. On another occasion, we transformed the CSB and deliver our awards there. Other occasions, then we moved to say off campus to hotels in the locality, and added to that. Then obviously, look, we have the special guests are very much our award winners, but we also would have been the kind of tradition Carmel had started, probably where they had special guests that would have attended down through the years. And I know, looking back on some of the photos in preparation for this week that we're in, some of the people that the college was able to attract, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I suppose it is a great night. I went to it. Was it obviously the year before last, because COVID was last year, and it was just fantastic. The atmosphere is amazing. But the awards are very, they're great insofar as they try and cover every angle,
Yeah.
And I think the one award that is probably, I suppose, one of the biggest would be the Carmel Lynch Award. And I suppose, Carmel, why was that implemented? It's to recognise one person, or can it be a team, or what was the thought behind it?
Well, Michael, I wasn't expecting that question, but
I jump in and take the pressure
off?
Yeah,
yeah, of course.
Yes. But look, I think the award was to recognise the absolute amazing diversity of clubs and societies. And oftentimes the recipient of that award has been involved in 2 or 3, maybe more clubs or societies. And I think it epitomises the involvement and that energy and commitment and dedication to clubs and societies over a yearly cycle. So certainly from the other aspect of that, is I'm extremely proud, obviously, to have my name attached to that award, and very grateful to the college for that. And hugely important for me. And it's lovely to attend the events every year. So really, and to say thank you to all involved for that.
Donal, you want to come in there?
I did, yeah. Yeah, no, I think Carmel has described herself there without even realising or meaning to describe herself. But yeah, look, you mentioned about the individual awards, and like it's not just, you know, your big clubs or your big societies that are awarded and acknowledged. You know, it's right from I suppose some of the, when I talk about the smaller clubs and societies, I don't mean it to be in any way disrespectful. I mean just in terms of the numbers that they have involved, and some of these smaller clubs, as we've known, have grown and evolved and developed to become, you know, some of the biggest clubs that we have. You know, I think of archery, airsoft, which have really over the last number of years, through the dedication, the commitment, the hard work of the students, they've allowed them to grow, and you know, they've attracted a much wider audience. And Martin talked about the whole area around esports in terms of societies there. I've no doubt that, look, while we all have been put out by COVID, the esports society probably attracted a new group of students that might not normally have got involved. So going back to the awards, yeah, we try and recognise, say, the students for their efforts, their commitment. It's all volunteers, and without the students, it wouldn't be possible to have clubs and societies. And I know, look, we're sitting here having been involved and trying to help support clubs and societies on the campus, but like, if it wasn't for the number of students that we had participating, getting involved, be it you know, whether it's playing, whether it's administrating, whether it's coaching, whether it's leading, it just wouldn't be possible. And I suppose when Carmel retired in 2014, we acknowledged the efforts, you know, the sheer volume of work, the commitment, the enthusiasm, and I suppose we just felt that on a yearly basis there were a number of students that are showing that, and it was to try and recognise it. And then look, the most difficult job the activities committee and the activities committee is still here have on any given year is trying to identify who the suitable recipient of that award could be, because look, it could be 10, could be 15, could be 20 people on any given year. But yeah, look, it is special. It's important that we recognise the students for all of the work, and look, they're hopefully benefiting from the experience of being involved in clubs and societies. So in terms of building their CVs, we obviously want the students to be as employable as possible, so they'll graduate with their degree, but you're hoping that the skills that they may have developed as a result of being involved in clubs and societies, whether it's kind of teamwork or whether it's kind of building confidence, whether it's leadership, that will all come true and will make the student more employable at the end, will obviously enhance their experience while they're in college also.
Yeah, and I suppose, Martin, we find that an awful lot of students that have gone through clubs and societies have formed friendships for life. It has often helped them, a lot of people, to get jobs, as Donal just said there. You know, it doesn't just stop when, you know, the degree is over.
One of the things we'll do in the podcast with the former students is going to be really interesting, because, you know, say some of the DJ students here, they've gone on to produce their own music. Now, maybe not full-time but certainly on a professional basis. I think that's amazing. Something that they maybe not discovered about themselves, but that they were able to develop here outside the academic side of things. A couple of guys are involved in music in bands, you know. That's fantastic, you know. People stay linked in, which is lovely, because, you know, they realize how important being a member of a particular society or a club was to them, you know, developing themselves.
And I think, Donal, we spoke about it during the week there, about how your friends are, the clubs and societies is where a lot of your friends are made, not necessarily your course, you know, and develop your interpersonal skills and everything.
Yeah, and look, not to refer back to COVID, but that would be the feeling then, that students who maybe didn't have the opportunities to get involved in the clubs on a face-to-face basis, obviously those clubs and societies that were able to move online were still trying to provide that opportunity. But certainly, yeah, the people that you'd meet in clubs and societies, like I remember just talking to some of the students, and if they were having difficulty with coursework, they might know someone on their team or on their committee who maybe on a course similar to theirs, or may have done a module that they had done, and if they had any concerns around, you know, whether it was a particular assignment or a piece of work, they were able to kind of, the ice was broken, if you like, because they knew them in a different context outside of the classroom, and they weren't or aren't afraid to say, look, you know, can you help me with this, or what do you think about that? And I think that's a really, really important part of the role the clubs and societies play.
And I might also mention, Michael, yesterday on my walks locally, I won't say where, but anyway.
Within 5K yesterday, Martin, I hope.
But I met a former student, who had just proposed to his girlfriend. And they were both there. They had just got engaged, and they had both met in a society here in college.
Wow.
So that was so cool.
Yeah.
IT Carlow, don't we provide so
Love
many
stories begin
opportunities,
at IT
marriages, wins, everything. Yeah. I suppose, Paula, when you studied here as well, you work here now. How have you found over the years IT Carlow has changed and adapted? Has it been much of a difference between when you first started in the role to where you are now?
Oh, hugely different. Firstly, we were dealing with much smaller numbers back in the days. I won't say what year either, but definitely in the 90s. As I said, the numbers were smaller. Our facilities were nearly non-existent. As Carmel talked about the pitches, she forgot to mention to you the many times that myself and Carmel had to carry soccer goals on a cold, frosty morning across the field. We'd no permanent soccer goals, so we'd be marking pitches, we'd be flagging it. So totally different. We didn't have the same.
Women.
No, not that many supports. You were depending on students to help, and obviously students were busy, so we had a much bigger workload as well, with things that you wouldn't think you'd be doing. So yeah, number one, it's definitely different size-wise, facility-wise. And our variety of sports and clubs and societies has just excelled now. So many unusual ones that we wouldn't have had in the day. Like, I don't think we had archery in the very early days, some new ones now that have come out, Pilates, Zumba. There was none of them. Back in the day, I was teaching the aerobics and teaching circuits, and they were really popular because we didn't have a health and fitness suite. But now that we have that, our lovely state-of-the-art health and fitness suite, people prefer to go to the gym and do their own fitness, so they don't want me teaching any classes. I don't think I'd keep up with the pace now anyhow. So yeah, big differences, but all for the better, to be honest with you. I'm still here and loving it, so
we can't get rid of her, no matter what we do. We just can't get rid of her, no matter what we do. I suppose it is important to acknowledge how over the years, and it is been over the last maybe say 10 years, and I know because I'm a Carlow man, and I've often seen driving past how the institute has just developed. I think Donal said it there earlier, a new building coming along nearly every year. And just recently we finished filming our opening ceremony in the South Sports Campus, which is a phenomenal piece of ground that hopefully will be well used now by all the clubs and societies. And I suppose we can't say, but what's the hopes for the future, Donal? I know COVID is very unpredictable. We'd like to be out of it soon, but
yeah, look, I suppose the key focus for us within clubs and societies is to, ensure that there's participation, and that Paula mentioned earlier in relation to the number of clubs and societies that have grown and kind of evolved. And it's for us to try and continue to provide the clubs and societies that people are interested in getting involved in. So look, we talked about, esports has come up 2 or 3 times. Like, I'm thinking of, the outdoor adventure type rock climbing. We've had requests from like the international students that come here every September. They get I suppose a great kind of sense of what living and studying in Ireland is about by kind of involving themselves in the culture, getting involved in clubs and societies, whether that's hill walking or whatever. So I think you asked the question, what will it be into the future? It's probably, you could take an opportunity like COVID and try and take a breather or whatever, but I think it's important that you have to try and adapt and continue to whatever the world throws at us over the next kind of 12, 18 months, up to 5 years, 10 years. We don't know, but our role, I suppose, suppose, is to provide that opportunity and the platform that whatever students we have that are studying on the Carlow campus or the Wexford campus or wherever it may be, that we have opportunities for them to get involved and try and enjoy that experience when they're studying in IT Carlow. And obviously, look, we're on a pathway to becoming a technological university, and that's a really exciting step for us all moving forward as well. And as I said, the key element there again is just to ensure that we at all times keep participation as a main focus and try and increase that participation and give students the opportunities that they'll kind of cherish in.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose unfortunately we are coming to the end of the vodcast, video podcast. I'm telling you, we're going to make millions out of that. But I want to, before we go, acknowledge the work of you guys from Carmel, from say the last number of years, to Donal, to Paula, to all the team in the sports office and the society office. It's fantastic, and we as a students' union are delighted to be able to work as a team. And I think this year, Donal said there about the Technological University, this whole week has been one of the best collaborative projects, I think, that has ever come out of Waterford Institute of Technology and Institute of Technology Carlow. We have the two student services working together, the two student unions and the two sports offices as such, working together to create one common goal, which is to look back and reflect on the past now that we are celebrating 50 years of both institutions. What was the phrase we came up with? Out with the old and in with the new.
That's it.
And hopefully that's not directed towards anyone now. But look, it'll be an exciting venture ahead, I suppose. And I suppose, Donal, that whole process there'll be updates or whatever through the website or whatever else. It's a slow but ongoing process.
Yeah, look, I suppose it's been ongoing. I think the two institutions have to be commended for the work that they've put into this, even in terms of the overall setup. There was work streams, 8 different work streams that have been set up. Within each work stream, then we had a number of different working groups, and I think that's provided the platform and the opportunity for, say, even what we're doing here this week, where you had 3 departments within each institution kind of working so easily together. These things can be quite complicated even within one institution, but to see I suppose the range of activities that are able to be rolled out, and it goes back to the process in terms of the process and the journey to becoming a technological university. Setting up the work streams, setting up the working groups has made it really easy for people and groups to work together. And you asked me earlier about where do I see this going. Like, I think if the last number of months have been anything to go by, I think it can only be a success once we continue to keep working together. So as I said, it's a journey we're on, and it's certainly an exciting one, and looking forward to what the next kind of 2, 3, 4, 5 and 10 years will bring. And it would be great to be back here if we were all called back maybe in another 30 years to reflect on the previous 30. Will be a great opportunity. So yeah, looking forward to that. But Michael, again, just thanks. The Students' Union have been instrumental in pulling all of this together, and obviously, look, they're the main representative body for the students, and I think the relationships that have grown, say, over the last not even over the last number of years, but the relationships that have grown and developed, it's the student at the end of the day is the winner in all of this. So just to compliment the Students' Union as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. As I said, it's an absolute pleasure to be able to work, and I suppose with everything this year, because it is one sure thing, it's been a difficult year, but we've got there, and I want to wish everyone all the very best. Hopefully we'll all be out of this very, very soon, and we can go back to normality. Carmel, I don't know what's in store for yourself. You retired here and you went straight into, was it Student Sport Ireland?
Student Sport Ireland, yeah. I'm still a member of Student Sport Ireland, but I was president up to February. So I'm hoping to work on my golf, Michael.
Okay, right.
That's if you let Paula get out a little bit early a couple of evenings to help me.
Okay, right. Well, I'm sure that could be facilitated.
I'm sure you'll be editing this.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you very much for everything.
Thank
Thanks
you
for inviting me, guys, onto the call.
Thank you, Carmel. Thanks to Martin Martin, Paula and Donal for taking the time to be with us. For the rest of the content, check out all of the social medias of both the Institute, the Students' Union. Keep an eye out. It's going to be a fantastic week. And I want to thank everyone, as Donald has already said, but I want to especially thank everyone who's made this possible, for all the podcasts. We've done documentaries, videos, whatever else, the opening ceremony, which was phenomenal. So thank you. And best of luck to everyone for the future. So until next time, thanks everyone for taking the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Michael.
Thanks, Michael.